Hello everyone, welcome to the channel of MeteoMark Weather. It's great to have you here today. We got a lot to talk about with the tropics. We're watching Invest 91L here into the Western Gulf, likely to become our next tropical storm. We're also watching two areas out here in the MDR, west of the Cape Verde Islands. How many storms could we be looking at over the next couple weeks? It looks like activity is greatly increasing. We'll take a look at all your weather. Let's get into it. So we're starting off here with the European model, and then in a couple minutes, we'll transfer over to the GFS. So Invest 91L is actually going to be two low pressures coming together. One from the north here off the Texas coast, one here that just crossed the Yucatan. These two are going to combine forces to basically strengthen into one big low pressure system. And we can see this by the 9th into the 10th. You see it riding up along the Mexican and South Texas coastline here. And then as we continue towards the 11th here, yeah, this could intensify, and I'll show you the intensity forecast models here momentarily. But look at this. This is by the 11th. We're just south of Houston, east of Corpus Christi here. So here is the Texas coastline. Here's Louisiana. It looks like Texas or Louisiana here could be in the crosshairs. Models are kind of pushing this a little bit to the east towards September 12th. Here's around 5 a.m. and then landfall there officially in Louisiana. So 11th or 12th, this would be the middle part of this coming week. And look at that. It becomes an inland flooding threat as it continues northward towards the Ohio Valley and eventually the Mid-Atlantic. Now, as we go out here into the Caribbean and the MDR here. So we got a few systems out here that are looking pretty menacing at this point. They look like they're going to develop potentially into something over the next several days. So the Caribbean's looking a bit quieter here as we go out here in time. So there's our Invest 91L over here and our two systems out here. This one, obviously, the orange one, has a better threat of developing here through the 13th, the 14th, and becoming a pretty formidable hurricane here on the European model. You can see here in the 16th into the 17th, there it is. It's just northeast of the Caribbean islands here, so it's something we'll have to keep an eye on. The margin of error is like right in here, so there is a lot of time to watch this. This is the 17th, by the way, so this is 10 days out, so a lot can change. Now, what is going on up here? This is a stalled out frontal boundary, and it'll be interesting to see how this interacts with this potential system, whether it ends up veering back west or it gets caught up in the westerlies and is able to go around this subtropical high here. And then we have our system out here behind it. If we take a look at this, it has a small window of opportunity here. It looks like, though, it mostly is absorbed by the first system. So at that point, it doesn't look like there's too much of a chance of our second system forming here. So yeah, there you have it. And I wanted to just draw your attention here on the last frame. Here it is on the 17th. The intertropical convergence zone is looking very active. So as we go through the middle of the month, it looks like tropical activity is going to continue to increase here. We have a bunch here south of the Caribbean here as well. And before we dive into our GFS model here, don't forget, if you made it this far in the video and you like it, smash that like button. It really does help everyone. Question or comment down below. I'd love to read your questions or comments. And don't forget, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe bell notification button so you're alerted with all my future weather video updates. Let's continue. So taking a look at our GFS model here, let's take a look at our Invest 91L. This is going to be the focus over the next several days. As you can see here, let's just back that up. You can see that area of low pressure coming down to meet our area, our Invest 91L. This basically, you can see, is showing up pretty well here on the GFS. This is a tail end of a front, so it's meeting up with a tropical wave, and that is why the concern is there that this may intensify more rapidly than models are forecasting. So there is that slight window of opportunity, I think, that this could become a hurricane. And as you can see, this pinwheel's northward here. The GFS does bring this to hurricane status. And I'll show you that momentarily here on our dry air analysis. But look at this. Yeah, this forming an eye right here, just southeast of Houston. It's anybody's game here along the Texas and Louisiana coast. I would even hesitant to say maybe a little bit further to the east as well. We'll have to see how far east this does make it, but it does start to recurve. You can see there it is. the 11th at 8 p.m., but watch how close it comes here. The 12th at 2 a.m., it's barreling right into western Louisiana, making landfall here. So this would not be good news. If we just zoom in on the coast here, just south of Lake Charles here at 5 a.m. on the 12th. So we have a few days to watch this, and then it becomes a inland heavy rain event as it moves northeastward here. We'll be watching some tropical moisture hanging out off the North Carolina coast. The Caribbean, for the most part, looks pretty quiet through the next several days, so not too much to talk about. There is one area across parts of east of the Lesser Antilles here. It looks like the GFS does something with this and continues to push it towards the northwest here. You can see our system moving through just east of Puerto Rico here and then through Hispaniola here as we head through the 16th and the 17th. So we'll have to watch this. This could head towards Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. But look at what happens behind this here. It looks like we could be having some sort of hurricane come out of this region behind it, as a couple storms do come together off the Cape Verde Islands here and form a major hurricane. The good news is the GFS, even though it's forecasting a major hurricane, it does kind of meander it for days out here in a very weak steering current flow. So that's a trend we'll have to keep an eye on. One thing's for certain, though, it looks like things will be coming a lot more active out here in the Atlantic. And thanks to Tropical Tidbits here for our Invest 91L system. As we take it through the next 24, 36, 48 hours, there is a pretty good chance this becomes a tropical storm, likely becoming our next named storm. And some of the models bringing this up towards a pretty strong tropical storm at that as we head through days 4, 5, and 6. So if we take a look at dry air analysis here, thanks to Tropical Tidbits, you can see on our European model, our system here across the southwestern Gulf, we'll be watching that. That low to the north kind of gets absorbed here by Invest 91L. We got some dry air coming in behind it, but here through Wednesday, September 11th, you can see there's that surge of tropical moisture, even some moving over towards Florida. But look at the intertropical convergence zone out here. We got these two big waves that we'll be watching here to the east. And if we take a look at the GFS run here, there it is. GFS going crazy with our Invest 91L. Here's Tuesday, September 10th. It's barreling out of the southwestern Gulf, becoming a hurricane, 978 millibars, right near just southeast of Houston there, and then heading towards Louisiana here as a hurricane. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. You know, the GFS tends to do this, but also look at behind it, the GFS going crazy with our two storms and potentially three out here as developing these into tropical storms and potentially a hurricane here. There's our first storm weakening as it heads through Puerto Rico. This is Sunday, September 15th, so take it with a grain of salt. But there it is, big storm developing. Another one off the North Carolina coast could become extra tropical as well, and we'll be watching these systems. This one along the east coast could be an extra tropical storm as we head through the 19th. Here our Cape Verde season really ramping up as well. Gulf looking much drier behind that big storm that we could potentially have. And take a look at a wind shear here. Take a look at this. Gives us a good idea where the strongest upper mid-layer and upper level winds are to shear these systems apart. There's a little bit of wind shear out ahead of our big system out here near the Cape Verde Islands. Here in the Western Gulf, you have to go way up here into the Gulf Coast states to get into some tremendous wind shear. And that system will be on the southeast corner of it, so it's favorable for development until it reaches the coast. Then you'll start to see much more wind shear there. That system get caught up in the westerlies there and sheared apart. But obviously, it'll have land interaction by Friday, September 13th. Now, here's our other systems out here. This one is in some light wind shear and a little bit of moderate wind shear to the system behind it on the southeast corner, but that continues to get into a more favorable development. We'll have to watch this because look at this low ends up making it across the Northeast Caribbean Islands towards Jamaica towards Tuesday, September 17th, and there's our big hurricane showing up on the GFS. And water temperatures are very supportive of tropical development. The Gulf and the Caribbean are very warm, but look at the MDR. The MDR is the warmest right now, so that is where we're going to see a lot of tropical development. Invest 91L has a lot of warm water to work with here into the Western Gulf as well. And looking into the Caribbean, Central America here, it looks mostly dry. Jamaica, the Cayman Islands through early next week, but look what starts to happen there. Central America, especially Mexico, on up the Western Gulf here, that's where we're really going to see 150 millimeters of rainfall. We stay mostly dry at least until, most of the following week here. We start to get into some showers here for Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, but it looks pretty light, anywhere from 16 to as much as 35 millimeters. That'll get us about maybe a quarter to a half an inch on average here. And heading to the Eastern Caribbean here, there's our tropical wave moving through northeastern Caribbean islands there. That's going to pick up some rainfall through midweek here, and then that traverses to the north here. So it looks like there's our big tropical wave really starting to solidify. We'll have to keep an eye on that. This takes us all the way through September 17th. So looking at some heavy rain here, 50 to as much as 90 millimeters here. That'll get us up towards, say, 1.5 inches, close to 3.5 inches here. And if we take a look at the Western Pacific here, you can see we're looking at some low pressure system action here east of Taiwan, and that's going to continue northwestward here towards the Eastern Asian continent here, Eastern China. And you look up towards Japan and South Korea, it's actually looking really nice for this time of year. So you're getting ready for early autumn as we progress towards October. But look at that. We have another system trying to form out here southeast of Japan. This is come the 12th into the 13th, and that's something we'll have to keep a very close watch on. There's actually a couple more tropical waves that look pretty menacing towards the northern Philippines as we head towards the middle of the month here. You can see some of these actually take on some very strong components here. We have dual systems here, essentially, between Taiwan, China, and the northern Philippine Islands here. So watch out. Things are signaling very active as we head towards the middle of September. Japan up here looks pretty quiet, though, with the exception for a cold front move dropping out of South Korea here. We do have a small chance of a low-pressure system from a tropical wave spinning up here along the Mexican coast as we head throughout the next week. You can see a 30% chance through day 7. It should be a pretty weak system, though. It may crank up to a tropical storm or hurricane. One thing to note, though, it's going to surge some tropical moisture up into the southwest part of the United States and northern Mexico. All right, of course, here with our future radar, all eyes are going to be on Invest 91L. It is interesting that this upper level, I shouldn't say upper level low, this low pressure here at the surface is going to be heading southwestward here, and that is going to be feeding into and developing our Invest 91L to the south. So that's going to really feed into it as we head through the 8th. Look at most of the rainfall staying offshore as we head through Sunday as well. That will be streaming eastward, though. Coastal Louisiana over to Florida here could be looking at some gully washers developing. So that's something we'll have to keep an eye on. But we're going to be watching our Invest 91L system. There it is. The northern side of the system, we can't see beyond this part, but there's a lot of moisture south of here. This is going to help feed this system. Now, as we head up into the Ohio Valley into the northeast, mid-Atlantic region, as we get through the rest of your Saturday evening into night, you can see those showers and thunder showers pressing to the northeast here. And as we head through the overnight hours into Sunday morning, here's 9 a.m., mainly up in Canada at this point, but we do have a lake effect response near Utica, New York, down to Albany, so watch out for that. Adirondacks will get that cold air aloft. It will be in the 60s, so lots of cold air crossing that Great Lakes, developing some showers. And as we head through 11 p.m. Sunday night, and here it is Monday morning, 4 a.m., the last couple frames here, you can actually see we have a little system dropping down that could promote a few showers and maybe even some thunder showers just in time for Monday here for parts of the Northeast. It's a low chance, but they'll be scattered about. All right, so we take a look at precipitation amounts here on our European model. You can see those wrapping up here in the Northeast as we continue throughout the weekend. Additional quarter to a half an inch Canada. We'll be getting most of that over an inch or two, but look at the coastal Texas and Louisiana. As we get through the rest of the weekend, we have our system there in the Western Gulf, and that could be moving north. And look at pretty much the whole southeast come late week into all the way up into the Ohio Valley next weekend into the following week. We could be seeing a massive surge of tropical moisture all the way up into the southeast. Some of these areas in the yellow zones, 4 to 6, and 6 to as much as 10 inches in these darker orangish zones. All right, so picking up where our future radar left off here as we continue through next week, you can see the big story is going to continue to be our potential tropical storm, and high pressure here to the east coast is continuing to provide some very dry conditions. And as we go out here in time, I just wanted to draw your attention, there could be a few showers as we head on into Monday here across parts of the Ohio Valley into the northeast. There is a slight risk here that's going to be dropping south, but it's very minuscule. It's going to be mostly sunny. And then as we continue through the 11th and the 12th and the 13th, as this high pressure moves off the coastline here, you can see that allows our tropical system out of the western Gulf to come right up the Mississippi River Valley, and it's probably going to start pinwheeling northeast towards the Ohio River Valley, and it kind of combines forces here with some tropical moisture off the Carolina coast. So it's going to tap in here to some tropical moisture, and that's something we're going to have to watch for next weekend. You can see that really starts to blow up. Look at the heaviest up towards Cleveland here on the 16th. That's pretty interesting, but it kind of gets hung up here because it can't really move east, so it's basically stuck right in this region. So as we take a look at our Canadian weather, that low is going to be moving out of the picture later this weekend here and into early next week, Monday the 9th into Tuesday. You can see a very quiet weather pattern. If we zoom out here for the new week, the big story is going to be later in the week, Friday here, towards the 13th. You can see some big storminess with this low pressure system ejecting here. Also some rain across northern Ontario and Quebec. And you can see that low really blasting northward here as it's basically forced over this high that extends from the U.S. East Coast. So another high cell up here. That's going to continue to provide some very dry weather across much of eastern Canada. And that just continues to build in until we get this next storm here moving out of Manitoba. That could bring some of that tropical moisture, what's left of our Gulf Coast system. And here for Canadian rainfall totals, it's mainly going to be across southeast Canada, Quebec, parts of New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, Prince Edward Island, all the way up into the Canadian Maritimes. That's where we're going to be seeing these solid amounts of about 60 to as much as 90 millimeters, locally higher amounts to 100. That'll get us about 2 to 4 inches on average. And then as we continue through the rest of Canada, we have a big storm tracking from the northern part of the United States. That's going to keep a lot of heavier precipitation rainfall across Saskatchewan, Manitoba area. That's where we'll eke out probably 50 to as much as 70 millimeters here, about 1.5 inches, close to 2 inches. And before we continue with more weather, check out these awesome, amazing maps that you won't find anywhere else.
I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code.
And temperature-wise here, as we go through Sunday, you can see there's that cooler air across the northeast feeling fall-like into the 60s, 70s back into the Ohio Valley here, 80s and 90s there across the Gulf Coast areas. Really warming up out west as we head through Monday. That's going to be surging to the east. You can see still holding on to some upper 60s, lower 70s here to parts of the northeast, but warming quickly into the Ohio Valley, mid to upper 70s as we head on into Tuesday. That warming trend is going to continue. You can see that 80-degree line spreading well to the east into Wednesday, September 11th here. Look at this. Even some readings here near 90 parts of the Ohio Valley, 80s into the Northeast. Look at this. You can see where our tropical rains are setting up. 70s and lower 80s here across the Gulf Coast states. That is kind of crazy, but you will be dealing with a lot of rain. Look at the 90s here into the Ohio Valley, lower Great Lakes, Midwest. We could see some readings here into the upper 80s parts of the mid-Atlantic as well as we head towards Friday, September 13th. Extended forecast from our hometown viewers, bringing to the Scranton, Susquehanna, River Valley of New York and Pennsylvania. Look at this. Sunday is beautiful, fall-like, 66 degrees. Look at that sleeping weather, 40s all the way through the week. We do have a chance of scattered showers with a late front dropping through Monday, but look at the warming trend. Wow, late summer, mid-80s by Thursday. As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MeteoMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget it's MeteoMark.com, and don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, Super Thanks. You can smash that Super Thanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks, everyone. Share that video. Subscribe if you haven't. Smash that like button.